Hey, what's up, guys? It's Giltspire here, and welcome back to Champions of the Fog. Today, I am joined by ChefDBD. How you doing today, Chef?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you doing today, Giltspire?
Pretty good. Cannot complain. We are here today for round 6. This time between Object of Depression versus Monarchy. You excited?
Yeah, let's go. Really
Awesome.
interesting matches.
Yeah, it's going to be definitely pretty interesting. Right now, we are just waiting for the Survivor builds as we speak. But today, we'll be starting off on the Temple of Purgation with Object of Depression on the killer side, and we are getting a bit of a treat. We are getting the real Zappies as the killer, which I know that you have seen Zappies play before, so have I. So it'll be interesting to see what they bring to the table. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, playing Zappies before, he's a really good killer, but I think Monarchy, they could just hold on, you know?
Yeah. So if you had to take any guesses on what killer Zappies might bring, you know, Zappies obviously being a pretty good jack of all trades. Obviously, we're on Temple of Purgation, so a lot of people have brought to my attention Temple, pretty hard map for killer, pretty widespread, so I'd expect maybe a mobility killer. How about you?
I think a high mobility killer is the best bet for this map. It's just that main building it's just going to be a problem for some of the killers. I'm expecting either around a Wraith or he might even pull out a Nurse.
Yeah, I mean, Nurse would not be a half bad idea. Would definitely be able to traverse that main building a little bit better. It's about 156 square tiles in DBD terms. So it's about the same size as Mount Ormond Resort for those who want a comparison. So will be interesting to say the least. So I'm thinking Wraith's a good shout. Maybe Blight, if they know how to play that map well, is definitely another potential idea.
Blight would be a really interesting pick with his map.
But with that being said, if we're doing a quick look at the builds, everything does look good to go. Just confirming with our ref Travesty, is everything good on your end?
Yep, everything looks good to go.
Awesome. In that case, I will let the lobby know that they are good to go, and we'll jump right on into game number 1. OOD on Killer and Monarchy on Survivor. On the Survivor side, we have OFE, Rocket, Shiro, and Keeperly. So let's see if this Survivor team can withstand Zappy's potential onslaught. But with that being said, we are only 3 days away from the next DBD mid-chapter update. You excited for that?
Ready than ever. I love to do Survivor's perks. Very fun.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I'm hoping that they have a large patch note that shows additional changes from what we've already seen. But we'll have to wait and see until that happens. In the meanwhile, we have some, some comp DBD to get into, which, surprisingly enough, is coming towards the end of Season 1 already. We're going to be moving to playoffs soon enough, so I think all the teams now have kind of come to that realization, too, and understand they're going to have to bring out their best in order to win and potentially, get that prize pool, which, surprisingly enough, is pretty high at this point. But we are jumping right on in as we do a second build check. Everything's looking good. And we see the Oni. Honestly, a little bit surprising in my opinion. I love Oni, but as much as I love him, I feel like he can really be kneecapped by smart and good survivors who play palette smart, who don't greed tiles, and who constantly just drop in front of Oni, ensuring that he's not able to get that first hit. What are your thoughts on Oni as a whole?
All I gotta say is just hopefully he gets the first hit before the first hit possible. As we can see, he's already found somebody off the bat.
Yeah, it's definitely a really good early find. Definitely could have been a lot worse for this Oni. But does look like Oni making the right decision, dropping that first chase as Ace was just dropping pallet after pallet and running him in its corrupt zone. Has ended up finding the Claudette Keeperly, it would seem. And they now have to, once again, contest with all these pallets and windows. Actually, looks like that might be Nia? Yeah, it is Nia.
I think we'll see a first hit pretty soon. I think you can see he's basically just making this almost a whole dead zone with this one gen. And now with that power going, he should have an easier time getting his first hit.
Yeah, definitely right about that, but at the end of the day, you know, the longer that you're able to prolong Oni's power, the better off you are. So it's going to be interesting to see here if he's able to get a first hit soon, and he is able to mind game Ace. So a beautiful mind game in that case, but now Oni has to make a decision whether to continue with that chase or go for someone else, and it looks like Oni has determined to go for another healthy survivor, which makes a lot of sense in my opinion. I always have the opinion that you want to get your first hit, drop chase ideally, excuse me, and then go for another healthy survivor to get your power.
And as we see here, he finally has his power 4 gens. Let's see what he can do with it.
Yeah, that's the next question. Oni is one of those glass cannon killers, where if you're able to make the most of his powers, then fantastic. But the moment that you're not, and you waste that full power on one survivor, whether healthy or otherwise, or get no one at all, then you know you're in deep trouble. So we'll see if these survivors play smart, but Ace does not appear to do so, and Oni gets the down. That was quite the surprise, imagine for Oni as well. You know, what better gift can a survivor give an Oni than a survivor fallen from the sky?
This is a present from the heavens. I see right here.
Exactly, and that's great timing as far as Oni is concerned, because we do see that Nia is still injured, leaving Oni a bit of a blood bank here. And so Oni will get his power pretty soon at this point in time, which is fantastic for the Oni as he knows where 2 potential survivors are. But it looks like he'll be opting to go for the Nia here, but is not able to connect the M2 down as they do get the pallet beforehand. But second time around, Nia ain't so lucky.
Really good packing by the Oni there for the second hook of the game.
Yeah, no, so far, really good pressure. We saw Tinker go off that first time around, so we know one of Oni's perks. Obviously, they also have Ruin, and we did hear another totem get cleansed earlier. We're going to assume Undying, all things considered. We do see another Tinker go off, but Survivor's still left early. Probably a good call out from OFE, allowing this Nancy a little bit of distance, but the question is, will it be enough to avoid this M1 hit? And though it did not connect, a cheeky firecracker play, trying to blind the Oni.
As we see here, Nia's all healed up, and another Tinker as prop. The chase is happening, which is just really good for the survivors at the moment.
Yeah, right now Survivors definitely not getting dismayed by, you know, seeing how much pressure Oni's able to get, and is able to get another generator here. Unfortunately, though, Nancy is moving into a dead zone, as we did see the Ace play this area a lot earlier. So Oni definitely would be able to play this pretty well and potentially get another hit and potentially his power as in addition.
Nancy's doing a pretty good job on this long wall here.
Yeah, she's using the window well, keeping her distance, trying to keep this Oni guessing to where she is. But I think at this point, Oni's going to be able to get this hit, but I think he may have taken that corner a little bit too wide and has given Nancy a pretty good amount of distance, and we do see 2 Tinkers in the distance as well. So I think Oni's going to make the right decision here, get that hit, get his power, but that's now 3 Tinkers. That is huge for these survivors. So it's going to be interesting to see what Oni decides to do as we see the first of those 3 gens pop off. Ace not able to get downed. And we do see Nancy here at this 3rd gen, and Nancy will go down for that.
Nice hit.
I think Oni is hoping for exactly what he needs to, which is to get this hit, and he does.
Nice hit.
So this might be the pressure that the Oni needs in order to ensure at least some form of snowball pressure, because without these 2 downs, I think that gen would have been completed. The only thing here to look at, though, is that there's only been 1 hook on each individual survivor, so no one is at risk of getting out of the match at this point in time, which is pretty significant for these survivors, as they're still able to potentially trade hook states later in the game in order to get one of these 3 gens, whether it be the downstairs gen, which is very hard to protect for the killer, whether it be that far corner, or the one that is already almost completed.
This is a really good gen split from what I'm seeing. But there is 2 hooks that are really, really close to each other, and Ace is going for the
Ace goes for that unhook, but unfortunately that will result in him getting hit, and now Oni will get his power. Looks like Oni trying to bait out the unhook and potentially get a double down here. Opting not to use power and potentially walk this one in. Claudette trying to desperately body block. But Oni being privy to that window vault and will get the down here on the Ace. I also do want to note, yep, Keeperly was broken. I was going to say, probably not Deliverance. We haven't seen Forced Penance, so it looks like it is second win, which second win against Oni, pretty freaking good, all things considered.
I did have a brain moment there. I was just thinking, how did he dummy from getting unhurt? You know? It's kind of weird. But as you were saying, it was second win. Really underrated perk in combat, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I mean, if you have a person that's dedicated to heal or unhook as is, it definitely makes sense to have second win. You know, saves you a little bit of time for that heal. But Oni potentially looking to camp out this Ace to death hook if the survivors are not able to capitalize on this time, as Oni has roughly probably like 20 to 25 seconds left in his power. So I imagine these survivors are a little bit skittish around that, as we do see that gen that was almost completed almost completely regressed. And we do see scratch marks at main building going towards Shaq. Oni has seen that too, and Ace does go down onto death hook. So this is a strong position for Oni to be in. What are your thoughts here? Do you think that this is going to end up in a survivor 3-man out? Do you think Oni's going to be able to get another kill at the very least?
I see him getting more hooks and probably another killing, but as we see, he has a strong gen split from the survivors, and seeing how Ruin is going to be really tough for him to just contend with these gens.
Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong. We, saw that Nia had seen that Ruin earlier, and it has officially been cleansed. So now Oni has to make some decisions, and honestly, I'm surprised to see that Wrath popped off there, as I would have thought he would have saved that for maybe a Tinker play, but does find the Nia and does get her down pretty quickly too. So really good spot for the Oni here, which should allow him to not only hook, but also finding the hatch as we speak. I'm honestly really surprised about how quickly Oni was able to turn things around. All it took was that double down at that gen, and pretty much now the game is in the Oni's favor. So, what do you think was the turning point here for the Oni? Do you think it was that double down, or what else do you think could have attributed to the turnaround here from being what looked to be a survivor-sided game to what is now obviously very killer favoring?
From two things I've seen, just Ace unfortunately getting left on hook, and just got doubled down by Oni and his power. It's just so much pressure.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you there. And to be fair for the Ace, it's definitely hard to unhook him when Oni still has his power and can potentially insta down you and your unhooker for a 2-1 punch. And looks like Oni will drop the chase with Nancy, going for a Claudette here, and does a fantastic flick on the Claudette.
But as we see, a Tinker is where Ace was killed.
Yeah, so this is going to be an interesting choice here. Oni going for the gen. Honestly, it's definitely a bit of a gamble, especially as he does not have any additional gen regression perks. So, in honesty, I may have wanted to go for that down and hook, because that would have guaranteed 2 survivors dead if you're able to secure it, because now we do see a second Tinker proc, and I'm betting you that there are 2 survivors there. So if you were the Oni in that situation, would you have gone for the hook or would you have gone for the gen? What are your thoughts there?
Well, I would have just gone for the hook, try to get as many points as I can, because I know at the end of the day, no matter how much I try, I know a gen what may pop. So just try to get as many hooks as I can at that moment.
Yeah, I think I definitely agree with you there, especially as we do see Oni now going for the Nancy, who is healthy. So if the other 2 survivors are able to 99 the exit gates, heal up, they should be able to walk in a escape here for the Nancy. And just like that, we see that gate open. And we also know that Hatch is not that far away. If Nancy gets hit here, she can apply momentum directly to Hatch, had the other 2 leave via the exit gate. But otherwise, looks like Nancy is opting to go directly for the exit gate. I think she has the distance necessary.
Yeah, this is looking at the 3 out for Monarchy here.
Yeah, definitely an awkward position. I think that's, as we said, it would have been much better off for the Oni to just have hooked in that moment. But nonetheless, that's still a 7-hook game, resulting in 29 points. Actually, correction, 38 points for Monarchy and 27 points for OOD. So I think if they're able to just secure that kill, it would have been a much closer game in this instance. But at the end of the day, sometimes mistakes are made on both sides. And that will result in Monarchy having a little bit of a lead here going into game number 2. So what are your overall thoughts on that match, Chef?
It was a really good, in my opinion, it was a really just back and forth game. At the front, you would see just 3 Tinkers proc at once as he was chasing Nancy, I'm pretty sure. Then just a double down and a camp ace just turned it around for him at the moment. But as you saw, the survivors were able to just push through the gens and just get a great 3 out. So anything could happen in game 2.
Yeah, no, I 110% agree. At the end of the day, the game ain't over yet, as we still have 3 more games to go. But definitely a really good way to start off this series for Monarchy, as they'll now be switching over to the killer side on the Temple of Purgation. But yeah, I think overall just really good play. I think a really good turnaround by Zappies. It's just unfortunate that, you know, a decision at that moment really makes or breaks everything. And he got a little bit greedy, wanted to get the 3K versus, you know, just claiming that 2K and calling it a day. But with that being said, looks like we are going to be either getting Pascusal or Moth here on Monarchy. So will prove interesting to see what they bring to the table. You know, obviously we saw how well Oni did that match in the later, you know, moments of the game. Are we still on the opinion of a high mobility killer, or do we think we'll see another potential Oni?
I don't really see another Oni coming in here. As you saw in the beginning, he had a tough time until he got a really good mind game on the ace and just kept just pedaling towards it since then. But you never know. I still see either a Wraith or, as you said, a Blight on this map.
Yeah, I think Blight would probably be the go-to. At the same time, Monarchy now with their lead, so I do find it less than likely that we'll see a Blight here. So maybe you're right in saying that Wraith would make a lot of sense.
It would make really a lot of sense. And also, it would be interesting to see, you know, as we all know from the mid-chapter, Spirit is getting a big nerf to its power, so I could see a Spirit come in.
And I definitely would agree with that. And also, do apologize ahead of time, as I don't know about everyone else, but my fall allergies have come in. And so I think you don't want to see me sniffling on the intermission here. So we'll be getting my fancy little logo here in the meanwhile, as I'll be using up a box of tissues. Yeah, fall allergies are just a nasty, nasty thing. So apologies about that ahead of time. But with that being said, we will be moving on to game number 2 here momentarily. I believe Monarchy is deciding who is going to be acting as their killer between Moth and Pesk. Have you seen both these killers play before? I know he's seen Mafia and COTF. What about Pask? Have you seen them play before?
I've never seen Pask play before, so this is the first time for me.
Awesome. Well, always good to see that. We have seen Pask play here a little bit. I've seen them play, I believe, in Vigo's Score as well. So will be interesting to see who will be killing on the Temple of Purgation. As we do wait here, though, like we mentioned earlier with the new update coming out, obviously you mentioned Spirit with the update as well, getting that nerf, so a lot of the comp teams are opting to burn their spirits as we speak. What are your thoughts on the update as it stands? Are you pretty happy with where the update is? Do you think that certain perks or killers could be nerfed or buffed a little bit more? What are your overall thoughts?
Seeing the update as it is, I'm seeing just really the only big problem was just the new survivor perks, in my opinion. The new built on last is crazy, but I feel like there could be other ways to go around that. Slinger's changes are just going to happen sooner or later. I was kind of iffy about his terror radius change, but one thing I've noticed, but what other people have told me was he doesn't really have a lullaby as Huntress and Trickster does. So as he runs monitor, he's just there at 16 meters.
Yeah, that is correct. There is no lullaby whatsoever. I would have preferred them to potentially have given him a lullaby instead of increasing his range. Because I feel like before, where people ran monitor for advantage, I feel like now you almost have to run monitor and abuse on Slinger.
For really normal. And I think it was just feeling like he's a trickster, but with a gun in his hands. Because you'll hear his mute. You're probably, I don't know how, I forgot how monitor works for a second.
No worries. Yeah, in this case, monitor abuse would reduce his terror radius from 32 meters back to 24. So it's basically like you are playing pre-nerf Deathslinger, except for the ADS and the timing there. So definitely going to be interesting to see how Slinger builds change accordingly.
It will be very interesting. And I feel like with this terror radius thing with Slinger, a lot of new perks will be opened up to him. One perk combo I've seen a lot of Slingers run recently was Starstruck Agitation. So a bigger terror radius would just be really good for him.
Yeah, I think realistically speaking, the biggest thing that I think they should do is they should probably give Slinger a lullaby. It'd be kind of cool to hear maybe like an old Western theme, out in the distance.
That would be really cool. Just maybe some chains jingling on the ground. That would be really cool to hear as he's coming.
Yeah, exactly. But does look like we have OOD in lobby as we speak. And at this point, we're now just waiting on Survivor and Killer builds. Outside of the changes on Slinger, obviously, what are your thoughts on Boon Totems? Do you think too strong? Do you feel like they still need a further nerf? What are your thoughts?
I feel that Boon Totems are kind of 40-60 with me. Because you can do a Boon Totem, but as you know, they changed it to where it takes longer to do.
Well, not necessarily. This has been a common misconception, at least based on how it's reading. It seems like they increased the time it takes to bless a hex. That is different from blessing a totem, though. Totem, I believe, is still going to be 16 seconds, versus blessing over a hex like Ruin, Undying, so on and so forth, will be 24.
I read it wrong. Oopsies.
Oh, no, it's not just you. Like, everyone who's ever talked to me, I mentioned, like, oh, yeah, Boon Totem's still going to be 16 seconds on totems, 24 on hexes. Like, no, it's going to be just 24 overall. I'm like, no. Like, reread it. They say specifically, blessing a hex. And so I think in that case, it's basically incentivizing the survivors to cleanse it, as when you cleanse a totem, whether it be a hex or a dull, it takes 14 seconds. Whereas when you bless, it does take that extra 2. So it might be beneficial in that regard to cleanse the hex now instead of blessing it. But I think depending on where the position of that hex is, blessing is still free game, especially if it's out on the corner of a map where gen's already been completed. I think blessing it in that moment and giving them self-care in a safe location is the play.
That is absolutely the play. My time on the PTB, I learned like just day by day I spent 3 days on the PTB and I just learned so many things about the new Boon Totems. One thing I've learned is even though you bless one, you can move one across the map towards you, which is very, very interesting.
Yeah, the sheer fact they're able, like, I don't mind that you're able to move the boon totems. The biggest thing that I wish I would see, and I've said this before and I'll say it again, is that when the killer snuffs out that totem, that it either breaks the totem or ends the perk. Because there really is nothing but reward with no real risk. And some people say, well, you have to re-bless it. Takes 16 seconds. Okay, that's great and all, but if you just have one person heal in Circle of Healing, you're saving 16 seconds right there, so it makes that time spent null and void. So unless you're a killer, you see them bless it, you immediately cleanse it. There really is no risk in that moment, especially if the survivors are not incentivized to break any totems, as you're just able to re-bless, especially when we look into Comp Scene, as we will be playing on Suffocation Pit here on game number 3 later in the series, where if you just have a boon totem on the other side of the map where the killer doesn't have the 3-gen, you take it from the killer, you run to the other side of the map, you re-heal, rinse, repeat, and you don't need 2 people there, you just need 1 person with a boon totem, and it's pretty much GG's. So, hence why boon totems come Season 2 will probably be banned as they stand.
Yeah, I see no problem with it, honestly. Just as that what you were saying, puts a little bit more pressure off of the survivors. As you said, just one person could just go across the map and just reset themselves and just come back to help the other team,
Exactly, but I do believe we are good to go. If we could get confirmation from Travesty.
Yes, we are good to go.
Thank you. Well, with that being said, let's take a look and see what Monarchy has in store for Object of Depression. Once again, I think high mobility here is the name of the game. I think bringing anything but that would be a mistake, all things considered. If an instance that we don't see a high mobility killer, as Oni could be argued to be high mobility, what would be your alternative guesses?
An alternative guess of mine, I just don't know. Temple is just all over the place. Just in the first game, we really didn't see Oni play main, which is really good. It was always on the outskirts on the map. That's one thing I've seen. But Temple is just so crazy. I don't really see just a killer. I just keep either Rage because he has dependable mobility. He just gets tagged and eventually get you down.
Yeah, I think that, you're right in saying that main was not played a lot. I think if the survivors did play main more, it would have definitely been difficult for the killer to get more hits. His main is definitely a strong position. Definitely weaker than some other main buildings like Ormond, where you have 1,000 pallets to work with. But still really strong. As long as you don't complete that middle gen, your loops, especially on those vaults, are so strong. But the moment you finish that middle gen, it opens up a ton of value for the killer, open up 2 more openings. So main building then has 4 openings rather than simply 2, which is the main complaint about this map when it comes to main building. If they all had the doors open, I think it'd be a little bit more balanced.
As you saw in the game, he was going for a demon dash on the ace who vaulted the window. He was going to cut him off, but that door was still closed.
Indeed. But it looks like, surprisingly enough, we are getting a Huntress for game number 2 from Monarchy. I don't know about this one. I think on one hand, I like this map for Slinger for the fact that he's able to ADS and shoot over those low tiles. I just am a little bit concerned about Huntress being a, 110 killer with not as much advantage to Slinger. If I'm bringing a range killer, I think Slinger's the name of the game here.
I just agree 100%. And she's already on someone.
Yeah, already on someone, and is able to get a really good hit from what looked to be a sprint burst. So really good shot there by the Lonely Moth. And we'll see if they're able to capitalize and get another hit here, as the Nia is desperately trying to gain some distance, and Moth just barely missing on that corner.
Was cut right there. But yeah, back to what you were saying before. Slinger, if he would have shot at the window, he could have probably, just couldn't get him. But that's still a mend and an injury that you just got on the survivor.
Yeah, so definitely good spot here for the Lilymov, and Nia trying desperately to dodge that hit, but Lilymov taking it nice and slow and does confirm that down, but we do see that first gen pop off in the distance as we speak.
And as you can see from what I saw, there's still one more totem up on the map.
Yep, yes. Still one more lit, so chances are first totem going down, more likely than not, was Undying. And with that being said, we still have not seen if Ruin is in play, as we've actually been playing around in this corrupt zone pretty heavily here, which could be rather detrimental for these survivors. Or rather for the killer, that is.
As you saw here, there was a fast unhook on the Nia, just knowing that Huntress is super far away. But she has to be careful next time. Yeah, kind of being out in the open like that, she could have just threw it half and got another free hit on the unhooker.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with you. At the same time, this map is a little bit rough as we do see a ton of objects kind of scattered about. So Huntress getting those, long-range hits are definitely easier said than done, but Steve doing a really good job using these objects to his advantage to screen the Huntress' hits, but taking that vault and thus subsequently a hit as well. But looks like Huntress losing Steve there for a moment and opting to go for some reload, as she did not have any more hatchets, as we are seeing Babushka as well as Oak Haft. Wonder if maybe Huntress would have preferred a additional hatchet or two to try and follow up some hits on that Steve there.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Well, everybody does have their preference. I always went for Huntress infantry and just Okay, I just don't feel myself being as confident as everybody else with just Babushka, so I just run extra hatchets.
Yeah, I can definitely agree with you on that one. That kind of be my go-to as well. I think Okaft is kind of an auto-include at the end of the day. It's just such a good add-on on the Huntress. We do see a hit here on the ace and a good double tap.
Nice hit by the Huntress.
I think this is what Huntress needs right now, because Huntress right now in a really, really weak position, as we currently see 2 gens to 2 hooks and another gen not too far away. 2 gens, in fact, that are pretty well progressed, as we do see another gen pop off. And I do want to note as well that it looks like main building has been completed. Like I said earlier, it may have been better for these survivors not to have completed main, as that does open up a lot of those loops and makes them significantly weaker in comparison.
Yeah, but also, at the end of it is a Huntress. But she is a really strong killer, but I just feel like the 110 would kill her no matter what on that main building.
Yeah, so actually, here's the interesting question, and I think this is a good topic for debate on, is that do you feel like at this point 110 killers, though strong in certain positions, as we have seen on like Suffocation Pit last Sunday, Huntress can play really well, Deathslinger can play really well, but I think the name of the game at this point in DBD is gen pressure, gen pressure, gen pressure, and thus needing the speed to maneuver around the map. Do you feel like 110s might need to eventually see a increase to 115 for them to be viable?
As you would say that, maybe just not really. As you are right, as they need the mobility. It's going to be tough, right? Especially for maps like this where you just have to find almost a 3-gen-ish situation. But you have to also think about it like this. If they even move them up to 115, there may be a little bit of a power rework for these killers.
Yeah, no, that is a fair point. I'd say, for a lot of the killers, if they ever were to move, some of these M2 range-based killers to 115, they'd probably have to decrease their speed while using their power. As we do see Huntress take a slow down and trying to get the hit on the Bill, hits the ace instead, eats the BT, and is not able to connect that second shot, but Bill will dodge that M1 with a brilliant dead hard. So, amazing stuff there.
As you saw right there, even though he unhooked with BT, Huntress is still one of those strongest kills that could just eat through a BT and the unhooker just in that one moment. Luckily, Ace was able to dodge that one hatchet.
Indeed, but with that being said, we see Zappies now going on the hook, and this will only be the 4th hook. Like I said earlier, 1-for-1 on hooks the gens, and comp play is not a place you want to be. Especially as we see, 2 gens that are relatively close to the hook, but that 3rd one off in the distance is a really strong position for these survivors. So I'd be willing to bet that's where they're A, healing, but B, also trying to finish up that gen. As we see Steve trying to get that unhook, but failing as Huntress is able to cut him off and go for the potential down, dragging him away.
Huntress with the heel hook is almost one of the most dangerous things in this game for me. Just especially if she has an O-cap, she has the potential to get almost 2 downs if she plays it right.
Yeah, 100%.
Two hooks right beside each other, and the last gen is pop. It was probably in the back, and it was in the back of the map as we were talking about.
Yeah, so now the question is whether these survivors are going to be able to get these unhooks, as we do see at least one person on the exit gates. Moth also sees that, trying to take some shots from afar, using up some hatchets. Honestly, a little bit concerned about doing that, as that does mean that she only has 1 hatchet left. So I think that may have been a bit of a misplay, in my opinion, as we do see the hit on Ace with 0 hatchets left. Ace will be trying to go for this unhook, but does not have enough time. So that will result in Mr. Dave, the Ace, going down, and now Huntress in a strong position with a slug underneath the hook.
It would unlock her right in sight too, but I just don't know that could have been just a perfect time for a survivor to go for an unhook.
Yeah, I think, honestly, I'd be a little bit concerned about the unhook there. I think the right play would have been for them to just get the 3-man out. If they would have gotten the 3-man out, it would have tied things up just a little bit. But now they risk a moment where they might only get 2, and so that will only strengthen Monarchy's lead at this point in time, as the Steve does move to 2nd stage. And looks like these survivors are going to opt to go for the 2-man out as we speak, as Huntress is going to attempt to reduce resources.
But do you think you can see an unbreakable from the Ace here?
That is true. That is true. That would be their saving grace. But I think if they had it, they would have procced it at this point in time.
Yeah.
But now Huntress needs to try and find the slug. They did see him over here earlier, and they are able to find the Ace and able to get that 3rd hook, resulting in a progression as well for the Steve. So that results in a direct tie of 29-29 here for OOD and Monarchy, resulting in a total points of 67 for Monarchy, 56 for OOD. So no real change, actually, in the points by the end of that match, which, for a Huntress on teleportation, I think is a pretty good result, all things considered.
Of course, there was this brilliant performance, and I feel like there was a little bit of mistakes by the survivors as well, especially from Ace in that last few moments of the game. Just being seen, I feel like this costed the game almost. But it was a really good game.
I think, I don't know, I just feel like Huntress was just not a good pick here. I think it was definitely a daring pick, to say the least.
Seeing as Monarchy took the lead, I was probably thinking it was a throwaway-ish, but similar killer that could somehow just get hooks in or protect her hooks.
Yeah, I think that definitely is the best situation in that moment. We saw Huntress doing a pretty good job there towards the end, moving people from progression to progression and able to get survivors out of the map little by little. With that being said, though, I do believe we are going to be shaking things up for Monarchy and going to be bringing in Pascusal, if I'm not mistaken. But we will be moving over to Suffocation Pit, which is a much more killer-sided map. And we're going to have to wait and see what killers are brought, because there's a much more wide variety of killers that can be used here successfully. So if you had to think about Suffocation Pit, you're in the position of Monarchy, still have a bit of a lead, didn't gain any points last game. What would you be bringing if you are going to be killing on Suffo Pit?
There's just so many choices, as it is just, in my opinion, a really strong choke point map, just like RP, ARP, not RPD. They both have R in the name, R and P in the name. But yeah, Suffocation Pit will be just a really good little comfortable spot for the killer, as in recent history, we've seen 5 gens spawn on one side of Suffo Pit with a basement.
Yeah, no, that is a true point. Where we have seen, I don't think a 5-gen, but a 4-gen at the very least does end up spawning sometimes. And it's definitely a rare spawn. But actually, just got informed, looks like we're not going to be seeing Pask. Instead, we are going to be seeing Moth here again. You know, I don't know. If you're Monarchy, I think, as we always mentioned, Game 3, most important match of the game. Or rather, Game 3, most important game of the match. I think you bring out, you know, someone that's not Huntress. Huntress in comp can be arguably A tier. I still would argue B on most maps. I think here, if you have Spirit available, which, mind you, Monarchy does not have available, you know, maybe you bring out Spirit if you're OOD in Game 4, but I think for Monarchy, I do like myself some Pyramid Head on ARP and stuff with it. I think he's able to move survivors around pretty well to ensure some really good 3-gen pressure, whether that be by, you know, potentially forcing a double hit on a unhook in your 3-gen, or if you feel you have some good pressure, even caging survivors to the other end of the map to get uncaged, and making it so that at least 2 people are off of your side of the map as well. So I could see maybe a Pyramid Head play here, even though his animation is currently busted.
Yeah, it is unfortunate for Pyramid Head for his animation, but you are right. I really haven't had much Pyramid Head experience on Suppo or RP, or keep doing that, ARP. But you are really right. Just his ability to almost, in my opinion, he has a really good just chase shutdown, and he's one of the best he is probably the best map manipulation killer in the game. Is being able to transport a survivor across the map, whether the survivor is on that side or not. He can just cause really bad pressure.
Yeah, no, it's true. I mean, the sheer fact of being able to deny DS, BT will make it, Deliverance, what have you, just really good base kit abilities. So definitely could be a strong choice to have Pyramid Head on this map, as I know I've used him prior. But we'll have to wait and see what Monarchy decides to bring.
But if not Pyramid Head, who would you think they'll pull out?
That's a tough decision. You know, you have a 3-gen focus map. There's definitely a lot of choices. If you're looking to just lock down a 3-gen, even though it is a McMillan map, we could see a Bubba to secure the 2K if they wanted to. That would be a strong option. The biggest thing of Bubba on McMillan maps, unfortunately, is the trees have those low-hanging branches that can cause you to tantrum pretty consistently. And that would be my main concern, honestly, if we are looking at Bubs. As much as I do love him, alternatively, we saw some really good play of Huntress from Travesty last Sunday, where Huntress was able to lock that down. Of course, Monarchy not able to use Huntress here, but could have been a good shout if, in instance, they had not used it on Game 2 on Temple Purgation.
Yeah, you are absolutely right about that. Travesty's Huntress was really good in that. Was really good in that last game against Deadheads. Just shutting down one side of the map. Unfortunately, as you said, Huntress was already used for Temple. But there's just a lot of other good killers that could just shut down just one side of the map.
Yeah, we could see Nurse, which you've seen here on a few occasions. Could see Pyramid Head. I think if you had enough of a point lead, you could argue a Pig if the right RNG is in your favor, where you might have 2-3 boxes on your side of the 3-gen. And, you know, that really does put a lot of pressure on the survivors to get that first box right. But I don't think Pig would be the right pick here, just given that they don't have a ton of points to really work with.
That's absolutely correct what you were saying.
Because right now we're looking at only a, 11-point lead. So it really is anyone's game going to Game 3. I think that whichever team you're on, you're just looking for either a 4K or 4-man out to secure your lead going into Game 4. And I think especially for OOD, as I think they really do need to, secure a lead here to take some pressure off of their Game 4 killer, as it's always, a unfortunate position to be in, right? To have to be in Game 4, you have to bring the game back, you have to get the 4K, Whereas if OD is able to get a decent 4-man out here, that would allow that last killer to say, okay, cool, I can take it slow and get the game going. But it does appear that we are jumping in to game number 3, once again with Moth from Monarchy as the killer. And this time around, we are on the Suffocation Pit.
This is going to be I think this is going to be a really another good game. I play this time for survivors. Some survivors team they would love to just rush the gens, do what they can, but for Seppo and ARP, I kind of scope out, see what gens are on what side, and just try to plan out from there. If you see a 3-gen on one side or you have 2 in a choke point, you have 2 on the other, just try to focus on the 3-gen side and just make your way down.
I 110% agree, but after a quick double check over the builds, we are good to go, and we see the twins on Suffo, which I actually really do like twins on this map, because you, as Moth is doing, can sentry up in the middle, bring Victor out, and be able to kind of maneuver around pretty quickly, as he is going to be running at 150 base speed with that Force Stew, though, moving even faster. And this allows them to really box out the survivors in a lot of different situations.
And as we see with Nia being cleaned on by Victor, we see that someone else spawned with her as well.
Yep, so good info there for the twins, and with the corrupted gens and what I would say in my estimation is the side that Moth wants to keep, definitely able to take some time to chase Bill here out on Shaq's side. I will also note that, as we mentioned earlier, does appear to be a 4-gen over on the main side as well. And we see Victor coming out rather quickly there with that, I forget if it's a toenail or fingernail add-on to allow Victor a bit of a faster release time. And they are able to get zappies accordingly.
It's surprising I don't see them running a toy sword. Shiny Fingernail, of course, is a really good add-on as well, but we just mostly seen either speed and toy sword most of the time. And we see him going for a down on the Nia, but instead he has to cling on the ace, which is still a really good strategy.
I mean, I do want to give a good shout there for survivors. Really smart play there. Taking the hit with Vic to ensure they don't get down. Basically boxing an EN and saying, cool, you can pounce on me, but you're not going to get the down here. So really good, smart heads-up play in my opinion. We do see first hook here on the Bill Zappies. And I don't think Moth saw it, but I did see a bush move there on the tile to the right. So I think that OOD here trying to go for a quick unhook, and we do see Nia doing so accordingly. Maybe a potential deliverance play.
Probably. But there's one thing I also want to notice from the past 2 games with Monarchy. They have gotten a hook or a down before the corrupt ended. So there's really good early pressure at the start.
And definitely 100%, and a cheeky little pounce there. I think in this case, having Toy Sword over that nail would have definitely been the better play. But Zappies will get re-down, and this is a potential spot where these survivors could get a really, really, be in a weak position, as we do see the second down here. And Ace is also a potential candidate for the slug play, but looks like the twins are opting not be too greedy here. Keep the 2-man down, and we'll go for the hook on Nia and Bill.
Really good play by the twins. You never want to try to over slug or overdo Victor, as it could just say he went for Ace. Steve could have came and just picked up Bill and probably get him full heal.
Yeah, no,
smart play.
That is the unfortunate part when it comes to that, and as we did mention, that is indeed a deliverance from the Nia. And Moth was thinking there for a second to go for the down again, but opted against it. But we will see Bill go down instead, and Nia will go in for the kick. So this could be a huge play, especially as we do know that this gen over here is pretty well progressed, even though it is slowly but surely regressing with Ruin as we speak, as that is currently still up.
Also, one thing I want to point out is as soon as she downloaded, she went to pick up Bill, so we know DS is not a factor at the time. So I'm surprised he didn't go for the down on Nia.
That is true, that is true. And we do see 2 gens pop. Now that is over on Shaq's side, of course, which I do imagine that Moth is having the same thought as I, that these survivors are going to be healing over here, as we do see a Stevie Boy Wonder currently over here, and going into the locker was the right play, just a little bit short. Victor, you know, climbing on in there with you.
He just came to say hello.
You know, I think he said hello, but I don't think you want that gremlin in a locker if you have bit tight quarters, if I do say so myself.
He tried to squeeze in the hug as good as he can.
Exactly, but we do hear that first totem go out, though it does still sound like the gens are regressing, so that would be a thought of Undying and Ruin, where you do see a totem over on main side still, so Ruin is still up as we speak, but now Moth has a really strong position here. They have a hook back in their 3-gen. The gen that is most well progressed is currently still regressing passively as we speak at a pretty good clip, and now Victor can kind of just be brought out and maneuvered around. If they really want to, they can go over to the other gens and, you know, just kind of delay them. That's one of the beautiful things about Victor. We do hear that unhook in the background, as it does look like Nia is going to try and dodge Victor with that sprint burst, but maybe not going to be able to get the dodge, but using this tree to their advantage, and Victor's still able to cling down.
As you said before, just trying to use sprint burst to try to get a little bit more distance, but as you know, Victor could easily almost outrun any exhaustion.
Yeah, that's the hard part about any mobility-based killer. You know, most of your exhaustion perks ain't gonna do all too much.
Now, the real question I have to ask is, it may sound crazy, but do you count Twins as a mobility killer? As you know, Charlotte isn't as fast as her brother, but you just send Victor on the other side and just keep getting pressure. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I personally would, all things considered. I mean, majority of the time, you're going to be running Vic as is, so you really aren't going to be moving around the map as a 150 for the most part. And then really, I always say it all the time, Charlotte's just kind of a glorified, you know, body transport system. So I think, yeah, I would definitely argue Twins as a 150. I think the hard part, if the survivors play smart, is understanding that once Victor is either down, kicked, or on someone's back, is that you are playing a 115. So they're almost like a variable speed killer, if that makes sense. To where in one moment they're 150 and another moment they're 115. So almost like Wraith. Almost like a better Wraith in that regard.
A little baby Wraith.
Indeed, indeed. But so it definitely is.
Ruin is going too.
It is. So that does mean now that Twins is down to 1 perk. And we have not yet identified what that is, but I'm sure the survivors have, as it is Thanatophobia. So definitely going to be interesting to see here, as Twins is definitely ensuring that these survivors stay injured for as long as possible, hence getting some really good Thanatophobia value.
The real question is, how are you going to keep the gens from just popping now? Now on the main side, you have to really, as you said before, the last perk is Thanatophobia, but does it really keep it from regressing? All it does is just slows it down a little.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a little bit difficult now for Moth to secure some kills, but with their 3-gen here and this hook, definitely a good spot. Looks like they're going to post Victor up in the middle of that choke point, trying to ensure that these survivors are not able to cross the map while they do start to work on these gens over here. Probably going to see a Steve here. That does beg the question, where is the Nia? And our answer has been given to us, as she does end up going for the unhook. And I think here Moth might be overextending themselves just a little bit, as we do see that gen pop off. And I imagine Bill and Nia on a gen right behind. Or alternatively, have healed. Unfortunately for Bill Boy here, definitely not a good position to be in, as he is currently on death hook. So I'd say the best bet would have been to go for Bill, but Moth may be a bit too concerned about this gen back here and leaving Nia all by her lonesome.
I feel if she had a Victor, she would have fully committed to it, but as you see, Ace is just holding on to our little friend until everything is okay. And she assassinated on main side, which is kind of bad timing, as Victor is now coming back to Charlotte. Do we see a sludge?
Yeah, I think in that instance, knowing the position that Nia was in, I think the play may have been to keep Victor hostage in that moment. but Survivor's opting to give back the Vic, and I think Nia will pay for that. But
Nice OG.
Victor just barely missing, and Nia will kick the Vic. And we now only have one generator left until these survivors are able to potentially get a 3 if not 4-man out.
As you can see right now, she's really just trying to get this down, not worried about the 3-gen.
Yeah, maybe Moth is just kind of thinking here that the best course of action is to secure the 1K. But looks like Moth is going to slug out and go back to the 3-gen. I still think that based on the timing, they may have overextended themselves. I mean, we do see 3 survivors on this single gen, even though it does not have a lot of progress as of yet. I do feel leaving even 2 survivors on this side of the map is going to be a real difficult position to come back from.
Could we see another 40-minute game with as another Twins player I've seen?
I mean, ARP and Suffo do yield themselves to be a pretty long match, as you know, especially if Twins, you're kind of just trying to slow down the game. And we see Nia go into locker. Bill will take Vic for a stroll. And now there are 3 injured survivors, which is a pretty good spot for Moth to be in. And I think in this case, you know, with all the survivors being on the other side of the map, I think this would make a lot of sense for them to try and focus down the ace and potentially, you know, get him progress as much as possible. But Moth potentially feeling the pressure on them as they do miss 2 back-to-back hits, as we do see those survivors starting to heal as we speak.
Yeah, those 2 whiffs could cause very much. But I see it on the ace coming soon. No, never mind.
Ace making really good use of bounce landing there. You know, Victor not able to get that hit on the drop down. So able to get that additional speed, and Moth just not accounting for that. However, we do see Ace here kind of out in no man's land, as there ain't much here for him to work with. So Mr. Dave will be going down.
This is very big for this guy.
So that'll be second hook now for the Ace, meaning that there are 2 survivors now on death hook. The question then remains, you know, are we able to see enough pressure here, as we do see probably 2 if not 3 survivors on that gen. Last gen popping off, and now Twins in a very weak position. I mean, trying to secure the 2K,
nice.
But a very good long range bounce from Vic.
I would see us just try to go get Bill out of the game, try to get some more points.
I mean, I definitely agree with that. On the other hand, I'd say maybe going for someone like Steve, who has yet to be hooked, might be the play as well, as that would guarantee you more points in comparison to Bill. If you get Bill down, you get only 4 points. You get Steve down and secure the kill, you're going to be getting 10 instead.
That is absolutely right. I forgot. But my question is, does Twins know that? Are they still chasing Bill with Rick on his back?
Yeah, it looks like they were going to go for Bill here, and Bill trying to crush Vic. The question is, will this body block come through? And it does, as we do see a blind, a out for Bill, and out for Nia and Ace. And now the question is whether or not Steve will also get the out. And I think, granted the distance, that'll be a 4-man out here. And that is a huge, huge play for Object of Depression, resulting in 50 points for them and 20 points for Monarchy. Total points at the end of Game 3 is 87 to 106. So, a 19-point match going into Game number 4.
As it is still anyone's game, they could come back and do their own four-man out, as we all know.
This is true, but at the end of the day, you know, as I mentioned earlier, this is going to mean that there's a whole lot less pressure on OOD's killer as we move into this next match. And I do believe we do have Zappies as the killer for game number 4 for OOD. So it'll be interesting to see what Zappies brings. And with this being a killer-sided map, I think this is a fantastic position for OOD to be in, to say the least.
It's a really good position for them to be, and it cuts up. It takes a little bit of the pressure away from them as they know they have the lead now after a really good game 3. So maybe we'll see a twins from Zappies as some people know that he used to play a lot of twins.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. Zappies used to be known as a twins main. So, maybe we'll see a rebuttal here. But we'll have to wait and see as Zappies has created the lobby. And at this point in time, we're just going to be waiting on the build as we'll be moving into game number 4. And let's take a look at our points and see what OOD needs to do to ensure their victory. We're looking at Monarchy as they are the underdog here. If they are able to get, let's see, 5 gens gets them ahead, but that's with no hooks. So let's say theoretically Monarchy gets the 3-man out. What's the minimum amount of work OOD needs to do? And if we're looking at, let's say, a 1K, OOD only needs to get a 1K with 2 additional hooks. So it's not a really high bar. So if Monarchy at the highest end would get the 4-man out, what does OOD need to do? They would need to get, let's see, it would appear to be a 8-hook game. If they do not get the 4K, it needs to be an 8-hook game. Whereas if they get just 1 kill, all they need is 2 additional hooks to claim the victory. So it's going to sway back and forth, whether it be 5 hooks or 8 hooks.
Would this count as a progression points as well, or does this have to be just all
if they were to
3
get
together?
1 progression, let's say 1 progression with a 1K, they would be able to tie the match, meaning that they need to get an additional hook. So the best case scenario is for them to tunnel someone out of the game without any progressions, and then 2 additional hooks towards the end, and they should be able to get that W. Otherwise, if they get the progression, they will need to get an additional hook to get an additional 4 points for the W.
For this, I would see a killer that has really strong chase potential.
Yeah.
As you do have to worry about gens a lot too, but you just have to make sure you get those hooks in as fast as you can.
Yeah, no, I agree. And also, Psycho, I am aware, unfortunately, my fall allergies are kicking my butt today. So rather than you guys seeing me wiping my nose with a tissue, using a whole box of tissues, I think I'd rather have my logo up. Probably a better look right now, as I think starting to get some hay fever as we are moving towards the end of our middle of October. Don't know about anyone else, but I know my allergies are kicking my butt.
The spring is past, so I'm going as good as ever.
For me, my allergies are literally year-round. I only have any alleviation when everything's dead in the winter. And being in North Dakota, lots of wide-open fields, so ton of pollen for me to take on in, so not horribly thrilled about that fact. But, with that being said, we do now have all the survivors in the lobby, and it looks like we got confirmation for the build for Zappies, so pretty excited about that. But also, looks like people asking for some updates on the points. Right now it's 87 for Monarchy, 106 for OOD. And it looks like we are going to be getting the builds for survivors here momentarily, as we are going to be jumping into game number 4 here. So what are your thoughts here? We already talked about our thoughts earlier. Monarchy obviously not having all the killers that I think would have been really beneficial for this map. What are you thinking for game number 4 here, as OD just needs to get that 1K2 hook? What would you bring?
I would bring a demo, but they aren't Chef, so they probably won't be bringing any demos tonight. But they'll probably bring either, in my opinion, since they only need hooks and a kill, I could see a Bubba. as I said earlier in the stream, I could see a Wraith as well.
Yeah,
This,
I could definitely see it. You know, definitely, I think it depends on your mentality in this situation. Whether you know, go all out and try and get the 4K, or if you try to play it a little bit more reserved and save a killer for later. But I believe Trusty has some info for us.
I'm just waiting on the last build for the Survivor. After that, we'll be good to go.
Thank you, thank you. Appreciate the heads up. So, I think here, I think as we discussed, I think Bubba, definitely a good option. Spirit, if they want to bring out the S tier, or a Nurse, if they want to bring out the S tier, definitely a good shout as well. I don't like Blight as much for this map, as there's a lot of LT walls, a lot of good places for survivors to work around. So I'm not as much of a fan of Blight here. What are your thoughts on Blight on Cepho Pit?
Blight, of course, is always a good choice on the map, but it's that middle spot that I'm worried about. It's the only thing that just gets on my mind about maps like ARP. I almost said RPD again. ARP and Cepho is yes, it's a choke point map, but it's just that middle part that gets to me.
Yeah, that is true, that is true. But I believe we are good to go on builds. Travesty, is that correct?
Yep, the builds look good to go. Let me just double check to make sure that the killer has sent... I am waiting on the killer to send in a screenshot of the map.
Nope, they actually have sent it. I see it right there. So we should be good, as we are good to go on Suffocation Pit. So, going to be interesting to see here. You know, if I'm OOD, I think with the victory in grass, I'm not bringing an S tier killer. I'm probably bringing an A. I think if I'm having a bet here, Pyramid Head. What's your final guess as we move into game number 4? Oh, Chef, you are muted. Just as a heads up, my friend.
Oops, sorry about that. But I don't know, just the back of my mind, I didn't expect an Oni on Temple. Maybe we could see a clown on Cepho Pit, but that's just not going to happen.
You know, those were two killers that Zappies was known for, so I think we're more likely to see a Twins than we are to see a Clown. But would definitely be interesting, because, I mean, Clown could get some good value if they're playing on one side, I will admit.
Anything could happen. That's the best part about
it. Is true, it is true. But after a quick double check, builds look good to go, and it is a Nurse.
A Nurse.
So OOD not here to play around, opting to go for that 4K. As Zappies is going to be probably protecting main side, as we do see a totem over here. And as always, a pretty good 3-gen. We do see scratch marks, and looks like Zappies has seen that too, and will now be in a chase with the Claudette.
Look like a little bit of a bad start for our friends on Monarchy, as we see Keep really being found first on the corrupted side. So there's a little bit of a safe haven here.
Yeah, definitely some good positions to be in when it comes to Survivor side. And now it matters whether or not Zappies here is going to be going for these chases as they move over to Shack side. And it looks like as their main building gens are corrupted, they're going to be playing a little bit aggressively here. But first gen will pop off on Shack side. And looks like Monarchy just taking no time to jump on these gens. So what are your thoughts here with the Nurse pick? Do you think this is maybe, you know, going a bit overboard, or you think this is the right call?
I mean, as you said before, all you need is a kill and two hooks. So I'm not that big of a killer player, but I'm just saying I don't really think Nurse was honestly a good idea. She could have been saved for a really tougher situation, but I just don't know.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with you, and I think also there is some danger bringing Nurse in comp, because I feel like most comp teams are practicing against Nurse and Spirit very, very often, right? You know, those are very common comp picks. So I think that there's also that argument to be made, as comp survivors are definitely much better than your average, that, you know, as we see here, the survivors are playing really well around this nurse, and Zappy's not really protecting the 3-gem and trying to get these downs, but just not able to secure anything.
Maybe the game floor pressure is getting to him. As we see, the survivor is really just working on the gen right beside him, but he didn't go to power down, which is interesting.
And these survivors just playing really smart heads up. Nia using basement to her advantage, breaking that line of sight, and Nurse just barely able to get the down on OFE.
Good down.
So that will be the first hook for the Nurse. And she now needs only 4, actually no, not 4, 4 more. 4 more hooks, 2 more on Nia, and 1 on 2 other survivors. And that will be the win for Zappies, as he is able to find the ace, but overshoots that blink and undershoots the second one. Maybe you're right, maybe Zappies is falling to the pressure as we speak. So, will be interesting to see here if Nurse is the right call. We still have yet to see a gen on main side go off. I will notice, though, the gens are kind of pretty weak here, and even weaker now as that first gen does go off on main, but good hit on the Nancy. And I'm feeling that these survivors will take the time to reset, as I imagine 3 of them will be on main shack side. And a good firecracker play there, as that did force Zappies to have to blink a little bit early, otherwise they would have risked the potential light burn from that firecracker.
One thing also I've seen from what Mantis said, it is causing the seasons about to end. So he is right about just having to use up the S to kill his load.
And that is true. If you have 2 Nurse picks, that might not be a bad call, especially depending on the teams that you will be played against. If you feel confident that you can use other killers on those maps against those teams, you know, it might not be a bad call, but I don't know. It's going to be really punishing for OOD here if they use the Nurse and do not claim the W. However, OFE going back down means that they only need a few more hooks here, as they do end up overshooting the ace. If they're able to get this down on the ace as well, that would be a huge play. But it looks like they're probably going to opt to go for the hook on the Nia, and that looks to be the target.
Seeing how these games are looking is he probably have to go go for the 8 hook. These gens are popping really fast, as I was talking about before. But we are seeing some really quick downs, even though at the low gen count.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting here, because, you know, these survivors got a pretty good gen split as we're looking around. You know, there's one gen in that back corner on main side, then there's the one in the middle. Ruin is still up as well, which, honestly, if I'm the Nurse in this situation, if I have a secondary gen regression perk like Pop Goes Weasel, I kind of want Ruin to get cleansed, because I want to be able to, you know, regress those gens by a total of, 20 seconds, rather than letting them kind of tick down on their own, allowing these survivors to, get back on them in a timely manner.
I think a really smart decision by Zappies here. He's going back and forth on the Nancy and Nia, so as you know that they have both been hooked. So eventually he could get one of them out the game and get 2 hooks at the same time. Yeah, that would be a smart heads-up play, but Nancy here not going down without a fight. As she was able to extend that chase pretty well, and I will not be surprised if we do see another gen or 2 popping off here. And now this is an interesting position. If Nurse is able to find Nia, they claim the win. If Nurse is not able to find Nia, and after Nancy's unhooked, not able to find her either, that would be huge. And we do see the last gen pop off. This actually could be a significant play here. And if anything, if we're kind of looking at how the points are working, if Nancy were to suicide here and put a progression on board, it would mean that they would need to get another additional hook on anyone. Oh, and as we see right here, Nia's on the door.
And Nancy's fully healed thanks to adrenaline. That is one survivor out. That is Ace gonna be out. Nancy's gonna be out. There's Neo too, and that is the 4-man out against the nurse with only 4 hooks in that moment. That is very, very punishing for OOD there, as they are able to successfully get that 4-man out. And so that is 50 points for Monarchy, 16 points for OOD, and that results in 137 Monarchy, 122 OOD, Monarchy claiming the win there. So congratulations, Monarchy, and GG, well played by OOD.
Really unlucky ending for Zappy's here. But he did the best. He really did the best he could, and that's you can't get upset. This is still just a really good game, but it's always just that game 4 pressure.
Yeah, it definitely is a bit rough to say the least. But that being said, you know, hard-fought victory for Monarchy and really good plays by OD all up. So with that being said, like I said earlier, GG's well played both teams, and congratulations to Monarchy. But that there will be the end of our first game today. We do, however, have another game in just around 45 minutes, as we will be seeing Immortal Alliance versus Prestige at 12 p.m. CST. So definitely make sure to be here then to see that match, as Season 1 of Champions of Fog is quickly coming to an end. But on that note, Chef, if everyone wants to go say hi next time you are live, where would they find you?
Twitch.tv/ChefDBD.
Awesome, awesome. I appreciate that. And as always, guys, I am your commissioner and primary host, Giltspire. I'm also an educational Dead by Daylight player, here to teach killers how to play Killer and survivors how to play against Killer. I'll be live again on Monday at 7 p.m. CST, so definitely make sure to stop on by and say hi then. But on that note, we'll see you all later at 12 p.m. CST, once again for Prestige versus Immortal Alliance. Bye-bye!